Welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. As you jump in, go ahead and set your chat to everyone so you can all participate together. Okay.
All right. I think we're ready to go.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this very important conversation and official meeting of the Standard Consensus Body. As you all may know and may have seen through the various communications that we've had over the last year, we are on a journey. And our journey is to elevate the profession globally by enhancing and making the contract management standard more globally accessible. We are delighted that we are here now on this journey. As you know and may know, that this partnership is only possible, or this effort is only possible, with a partnership with World Commerce and Contracting. I cannot imagine a more powerful partner to help us move forward in ensuring that this standard represents the communities of practice that we have around the world. Now, we realize there's going to be a lot of work to do. So this meeting is going to be divided up into three distinct sections. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a bit, and I'm going to introduce a few folks as well. But from a very high level, if we can move on to the next slide, and then the next one, I'm welcoming everyone. So the conversations that we are having now as a standard consensus body is on a journey to ISO. It's essentially the International Standards Setting Organization. The intent of doing this is that that body can help us establish a common language that we all start to use. Now, it may not be perfect right away, but we recognize that the journey and the ongoing updates are going to put us on that path. So the conversation is really about how do we get on that journey. So again, on the next slide, we are dividing this conversation into three things, three distinct sections. Sally and I are going to do, there you go, one back, there you are. Sally and I are going to give us some updates on sort of a little bit about the journey, but those three distinct conversations are: one, the official meeting with the standard consensus body. Now, this is meant to be public, not that the conversations we're going to have during the official meeting are going to be involving everybody. It's just so that we did it with full transparency, so the full community could see what we are going to do. So that is one of the sections. The other section is going to be about a conversation of what this journey is. How are we involving the global community? How is World Commerce and Contracting and NCMA and some of other partners involved on this journey? So that is the other component of it as well. And that piece of this conversation is going to have time for you to be able to come in and have conversations. You ask your questions, but we're also going to, again, share with you how this journey is progressing. So at this point, I would like to introduce Sally Geyer. Sally is the CEO of World Commerce and Contracting. Again, one of our, I can't imagine a more powerful and exciting partner to be connected with, because there is so much depth in what they do globally that is going to help us on this journey. So Sally, over to you for a few words of introduction.
Craig, thank you very much indeed. And it is wonderful to have reached this stage of our journey. I am filled with tremendous excitement this evening because, Craig, you and I have talked about this, our collaboration, and the journey towards a globally accessible standard for contract management for some time now. And suddenly, today, it all feels very real, which is really exciting. as Craig said, this meeting, I want to start by a little bit of formality in terms of please stick with us. There's going to be some very formal elements of this meeting, but there's also going to be a wonderful opportunity to learn a little bit more about what we have done in the background to support this activity to create this globally accessible standard. About the working groups, about the number of jurisdictions that are represented across those working groups. And it's so fabulous to see the geographical diversity that exists in this call this evening for me, from New Zealand to Kenya to Switzerland, Australia, the US, Canada, the UK. It's wonderful to see such a diverse group here with us. And that is what is critically important about this journey, that what we are doing and what I am under no illusion of the task ahead of us is to create something, to create this standard that we can all convene around, and the opportunity that this presents, not only to elevate the profession, which is of course what is so important, you as our members are what this is all about, but it's also critically elevating the fundamental and vitally important work that all of you perform, whether it's public sector or a private sector, whether you operate in a pre-award or a post-award environment. This is really fundamental. We know how important the field of contract management is to our world, to society today. So the journey that we are on, the creation of a globally accessible standard, is fabulous, and it is made possible because of the coming together of these two communities. And certainly, I'm so grateful to the World CC community for embracing this opportunity as you have, and for giving of your time and your enthusiasm, your energy to make this possible. So thank you all for being here. And like I said, please stick with us because there's plenty more to say after the formalities of this meeting. So Craig, thank you, and back to you.
Thank you, Sally. And again, yes, please bear with us. The front half is very formal, but again, our goal is to ensure that we do this in the full sunshine of our wonderful communities, to ensure that our process continues and it is as powerful as we hope it will be. So with that, the two other folks that I'm going to introduce you to that are part of the standard consensus body are Charlie Williams, who is the chair, and Barry Hooper, who is the vice chair. As you may see, Charlie is from the NCMA community and Barry is from the World Commerce and Contracting community. The other person to introduce you to as well is John Wilkinson. He has been part of the NCMA standards journey for the last couple of years. I'd say since the very beginning, and is still part of this journey to ensure that we meet all of the requirements that the international standards bodies require of us. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our chairs and to John.
Well, thanks, Craig. Thanks, Sally. It's wonderful to be here with all of you. It's also awesome to be able to continue to work on the standard that I've been working on now for the last few years, but also in this time, working on it in a global way. I'm just excited to continue the progress that we've started, but yet opening up a new chapter as we move this standard towards an international standard. So I appreciate the opportunity to continue to work here. I'm so pleased to have Barry as my co-pilot this time as we continue this work and bring it forward to where I think everyone has envisioned it being at some point in time. So I'm excited also by the number of participants that I see that have joined. It's awesome because I obviously believe that we do better when we work together collegially. And I think at the end of the day, that's the result that we'll get out of this process as we engage the full community, looking at the standard that guides and drives our profession. So with that said, let me turn it over to Barry and give him an opportunity to provide some opening comments.
Thank you very much, Charlie. And for those of you who have met, my name is Barry Hooper. I am the former board chair of World CEC. I'd just like to also just pay respect to Denise Carter, the former partnership agreement some time ago, which has led to this point. Just to add to Sally's opening introduction, I think whilst we also understand we have geographical representation, the other thing that I think is also quite great about our community is that we have representation from a variety of professions as well, meaning that we can take what I think is an acorn and turn it into an oak tree. And I'm certainly very, very excited about the future and what that may hold for us as a group. Thank you. And with that, I think I'm handing over to the formalities of the meeting.
So I'll call this meeting to order. This standards consensus body meeting is hereby called to order to consider the NCMA board chair's issuance of new work. To one, reaccredit NCMA as an ANSI Accredited Standards Developer. And two, reaffirm the contract management standard as a consortia standard in partnership with World Commerce and Contracting. Can we get a quorum call, John?
Okay, thank you, Charlie. I will call everybody's name and please respond if you're here. Mr. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Hooper,
Here.
Mr. Abogado, Dr. Berman,
Here.
Ms. County,
Here.
Ms. Davis,
Here.
Mr. Falcone,
Here.
Mr. Harrison,
Here.
Mr. McCollum,
Here.
Mr. Pellegrino,
Here.
Ms. Pine,
Here.
Mr. Pitch, Mr. Pitch, Dr. Rendon,
Here.
Ms. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Tawneys,
Here.
Mr. Manning,
Here.
Mr. Wells. Okay, so those I did not hear from were Mr. Abogado, Mr. Pitch, and Mr. Wells, and we do have a quorum.
Thank you, John. Given we have a quorum, we will proceed. I think it's important that we provide a little background as we've come along this journey for those who have not been a part of the journey since we started. But NCMA achieved a designation as an ANSI Accredited Standards Developer back in 2018. What that means essentially is that NCMA is authorized to develop and maintain the American national standards. And given that authority, some significant things happened. One of those is that in 2019, the contract management standard, which you'll also hear us refer to quite often as CMS, because we love acronyms, but the contract management standard was approved as a ANSI standard by the ANSI Executive Standards Board. And it was given a designation. I'm not going to read those numbers and letters to you, but it has a specific designation. And in 2022, the contract management standard was reaffirmed as a American national standard by ANSI Executive Standards Board. So we went through a reaffirmation of that standard, which was achieved in 2022. So we've been along this journey for some time now, but as we've discussed already, we're going to the next level. Let's go to the next chart. So as we think about what ANSI does for us and having a standard that's accredited by a body like ANSI, it provides stability and a common language to our career field that's accepted and recognized as an accredited set of standard. It gives us the ability to identify meaningful job tasks and competencies, and then ultimately to provide a roadmap for targeted professional development. So the whole ANSI accreditation process has a lot of rigor to it. As we go through this and you all participate in our meetings and observe our meetings, you'll see a lot of sausage making, which is intentional, because we want to get down to the real root of our profession the processes and procedures in which we work. And so this rigorous NC process contributes to the continuous improvement of that standard. And then it also provides a bridge between formal standards and individual competence. I'll say that I think as a result of the ANSI accreditation, at least in the United States, the Department of Defense and Federal Acquisition Institute adopted the CMS as a foundation of its learning and development for its workforce. So the rigor that's gone along in this process throughout its development is important. And I think as we now continue to move it into the international realm with all of our partners around the world, it'll only enhance what we're trying to do as a profession. And I believe ultimately prove beneficial to driving what we believe is important across our communities. So with that said, I think we need to proceed, John.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. And for everybody's edification here, in order for the standards consensus body to do any work on standards, there must be what is called new work issued by the NCMA board chair. And that's what this meeting is all about, because even though the board chair issues it, the standards consensus body still has to vote to accept it. So on July 21st, 2024, the NCMA board chair issued the following new work to the standards consensus body. Reaccredit NCMA as an ANSI Accredited Standards Developer and reaffirm the contract management standard as a consortia standard in partnership with World Commerce and Contracting. The intent of this new work is to prepare to actively participate in global standards development and maintenance provided by the International Organization for Standardization. And that leads to the motion, which will be it resolved that the standard consensus body hereby approves the new work to 1, reaccredit NCMA as an ANSI Accredited Standards Developer, and 2, reaffirm the contract management standard as a consortia standard in partnership with World Commerce and Contracting. So back to you, Charlie, for discussion.
So the motion has been put before the body. Is there any discussion? I'm going to give it a second just to see if any hands pop up. Having seen no hands, I think we should call for the vote. John?
Okay. So as I call your names, please respond with a yes or no vote. Mr. Abogado? Not present. Mr. Hooper, is there a proxy submitted?
There is a proxy vote, and the proxy vote is affirmative on both motions.
All right, thank you. Dr. Berman?
I vote yes on both.
Thank you. Ms. County?
I vote yes on both.
Ms. Davis?
Yes on both.
Mr. Falcone?
Yes on both.
Mr. Harrison?
I vote yes on both.
Mr. Hooper?
I vote yes on both.
Mr. Manning?
Voting yes on both.
Mr. McCollum? Mr. McCollum, you may be on mute. Okay. Mr. Pellegrino?
Yes on both.
Ms. Pine?
Yes on both.
Mr. Pitch?
Yes on both.
Dr. Rendon?
Yes on both.
Ms. Smith?
Yes on both.
Mr. Tawneys?
Yes on both.
Mr. Wells? Mr. Wells is not present. Mr. Hooper, did he submit a proxy?
We do have a proxy vote, and it's affirmative on both.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes on both.
And with 100% of the cast votes being affirmative, the motion is passed.
John, a procedural item to jump in. Please read Ray McCollum's, we need to call on his proxy vote.
Okay. Ray, are you still here? Because you responded to the roll call earlier, the quorum call. Okay, Mr. Hooper, did Mr. McCollum submit a proxy?
We do have a proxy vote and it's affirmative to both.
Okay, thank you. So the motion is passed. Thank you, Craig.
So congratulations, SCB. We have now accepted the new work and we'll get ready to roll up our sleeves and make it happen. I appreciate all of the help that we've had as we moved in this direction and looking forward to working with all of you and hearing from all of the participants and those who are engaging in this process as we get started. And I know as we adjourn this meeting, after we officially adjourn the meeting, we're going to have some additional discussion just so we can share with everyone online what this process is going to look like as it takes shape and where there will be opportunities to participate. So again, I want to thank everyone. Let me just make sure, does anyone have any a final question or comment in the formal session of the meeting, any SCB member? Okay, with that said, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Now, thank you, Charlie, and thank you, the SCB, for this historic and certainly very important to our profession event. Now we're done with the procedural stuff, the somewhat, I would say, interesting if you're into standards, boring otherwise. Now let's really get into the important and things that make this the why and help everyone understand what we're trying to accomplish here. So we're going to give you a little bit of highlight about how we're going to take this journey on, how we are doing it practically. And certainly for you on the call that are joining us, not on the SCB, there is a role for you as well. And we will need for you, we encourage you to be involved throughout the process. So on the next slide, please, John. So we have a process here that I'm going to have John run through very quickly, but this is to help you understand that we are following ANSI process. ANSI is a member of ISO, so we are following a process that's essentially an international standard, but our goal is to first reaffirm the standard under the American National Standard as CMS4. That will be what we are calling a globally accessible standard, so that we can immediately turn around and then submit that already ready to go standard out to ISO. So John, why don't you run us quickly through the first step of our reaccreditation of NCMA as the standard setting body. Remember, our goal is to get to ISO, and that ISO journey will involve World CC. Right now, we are coming in as the American National Standards Accredited Developer. When we go to ISO, we would be bringing our two communities together for that effort. So quickly, John, I'll let you run through this accreditation process.
Thank you. As the motion was passed, we saw that we do need to, the standards consensus body did approve the new work, and they're going to be reaccrediting the NCMA's Accredited Standards Developer designation. So the way we do this is they're going to update the manual. There's some small changes that need to be done. This will be done next month. Then it has to go to the NCMA board to approve it being submitted to ANSI. We submit it to ANSI. ANSI then reviews it, and they solicit public comments on our manual for 30 days. And any comments that come in have to be resolved by the staff and or the SCB. And then the ANSI Executive Standards Council then issues a decision. Then for the reaffirmation process, this meeting today is a requirement, so we've done that. Then their next step is we're going to be developing a job task analysis survey, and that's where we want you to participate. The green blocks here is where we want you to help us develop this standard. So you're going to be asked to participate in this survey to let us know which job tasks are important to you and which ones that you use most frequently. And we will take that data, provide it to the standards consensus body, and they will harmonize it into the draft standard and produce a standard that we will then post for 45 days and ask you to comment on it. So the entire standard in draft form will be out there, and we will ask you to provide comments, and we will respond to every one of those comments. Then once we get your comments, those that are approved or partially approved, the standard consensus body will then roll them again into the draft CMS 4, and they will then formally vote to approve that one and then submit the application to the NCMA and World CC boards. Both boards will be involved in this approval process. And once we get that approval, then we will submit the package to ANSI, and then their executive standards boards will then issue a decision, and it'll come up with the R 2025, most likely. It'll be early next year before we get to that milestone. Okay, you're on mute, Craig.
Thank you. I'll figure the mute button out one of these days. So thank you, John. As you all can see, there's a very structured process and approach to ensure that we've followed all the steps to get feedback. As you know, a standard is meant to represent sort of common practice. So to do that, we need to make sure that everyone has had a chance to feedback. So we will be reaching out to you. We hope you share the word as well when we reach back out to you, those green boxes, for your feedback, either for the job task analysis or the public comment periods, or any of the comment periods that ANSI opens up. We will need your involvement. So next slide, please. So Sally and I are going to run through quickly, how are we going to do this? So as you know, we are an American National Standard now. We are accredited to the as an American National Standards Developer. So we have a world that we're trying to represent here. We're trying to get to this accessible thing that anywhere we go in the world, you'll be able to understand that. So to do that, in partnership with World CC, 3 working groups were created. So Sally, I'd like to turn it over to you to talk through these groups.
Thank you, Craig, very much. And yes, this is, for me, a really important element of explaining what we are trying to do and what we're trying to achieve here. And I noted Romella's question in the chat. Based on what I'm hearing, this need to standardize has originated in the US. Will this take into account the international differences? E.g., managing contracts in the Middle East is very different to the UK. And indeed, that is exactly what we understand. We know from the work of World CC, obviously previously IACCM, this is an important journey. And so what we have done is convene these international working groups. These are individuals who we have invited to participate in the international working groups. And as Craig and John have already mentioned in their presentation, this does not exclude anybody else. We are absolutely keen for our global community to participate in this process, particularly in the job task analysis survey and that public comment. We really want you to be part of all of this. As you can see, we have representatives specifically from those working groups on the SCB. None of the World CC representatives on the SCB are from the US. They are from Australia, the UK, Denmark, Canada, and Mexico. It is wonderful, actually, as well, with the time that we have spent already with the other members of the SCB, how much we and I feel this tremendous sense of inclusivity and a desire to create something that is truly globally accessible, that is international. I think one of the really important things to remember here as well is that this is, and Craig, I've said to you on many occasions, how on earth are we going to do this? How on earth are we going to please everybody? How can we do this? We represent buy side and sell side. We represent pre-award and post-award. We have industry diversity. We clearly have geographic diversity. This is going to be no mean feat, but we are by no means the first international standard. There are many, many international standards, and I have tremendous faith that we as a community, because we have this will to elevate the profession, are going to be able to convene around this common practice. And I think that's also a really important point, and something that we have talked to these working groups. And I'm not going to read out all the names. You can see the international diversity in these working groups. And it was very, very deliberate that we did bring together as many different jurisdictions from across the World CC membership as we possibly could. And I think that's absolutely evident in the slide, in the individuals and the jurisdictions that they represent in front of you. We are going to be working together. These groups are going to be working together to assess the current standard and propose and present formally to the SCB updates, adjustments, so that it becomes globally accessible. We are not going to, and nor should we be thinking about creating a standard that represents best practice and covers every eventuality. That is not going to be feasible. And if we try and do something like that, we're absolutely going to tie ourselves up in knots. What we seek to achieve here is an understanding of a common methodology, a methodology that everybody can convene around. It doesn't mean to say that it's everything that you do, that the standard represents everything. It will not. And there are many who are going to be on a different pathway, a different part of their journey, a different evolution. That said, the most important thing about the creation of this new globally accessible standard is that it represents a common methodology that everybody feels comfortable with. And that is going to be, of course, the test of success. The test of success is that we're going to be able to come away, each one of us, every member of the working group and the SCB, and look at the standard, discuss the standard with their organizations and say, can we accept this and can we adopt this? Because that's going to be the tremendous test. And if the answer is yes, then we've got a big tick in the box. And that's obviously a huge part of the process that we're going to be going through, the formal ANSI process and that JTA survey and the public comment. So again, I am extremely grateful to all of the representatives listed on this slide in front of you from across the World CC community for giving up their time and for being so passionate about the work that is in front of them and so determined to create a standard that we can take forward to ISO. So Craig, thank you. Back to you.
Great. And thank you, Sally. One of the exciting things to add to this is that we also have others who are adopters. You heard Charlie talk about the US federal government, who's adopted the standard in its current version or its earlier version as the basis of its hiring and training framework. So there will be more, and this will continue to expand globally as this is an acceptable and accessible document. One of the things that I did want to underscore about that, and Sally's said it just slightly different than I did, but it's exactly what we want you to understand. This is common practice. So this is what we're shooting for, not like the advanced practice, what everyone should be reaching out to do. This is what people are doing today. And it is that practice that includes the job tasks, the terminology, and the life cycle that we talk about. What it is not is the standard terms. It isn't going to talk about the document. The contract is the vehicle. It is about the practice. So that is what we are on this journey to do. We are a standards developing organization, and together with World CC will be the global one. There may be things that we work on next, but this project right now is about practice. So John, if you'd like to move on to the next slide, we wanted to tell you a little bit about just the working group by numbers. The 3 regional areas we just saw that Sally mentioned. There are 55 members across all of those that are representing 21 countries. So we mentioned also the organizations. So NCMA, World CC are recognized here, but also I was mentioning adopters, NIGP, which is the a US-based group that focuses on state and local. We have representatives who are involved in both the SCB as well as in the working group level. You'll see that other countries are represented, that they also may represent other practice associations that are out there. So this is important to understand. We want everyone on this journey, so we encourage you to be along. Next slide, we want to just highlight some of the others that are involved in this effort. So next slide there, John, when you get a second. Oh, we went to Q&A.
Okay.
Did we have our slide with our board folks?
Okay, yes.
So what we wanted to do is also recognize, it's very up in the front end, apologies there. We wanted you to see the breadth of leadership between NCMA and World CC. I'll run through the NCMA one quickly. I'm not going to read them by name, but similar to World CC, we have buyers and sellers. We are predominantly US federal public procurement, but we have other representation that comes in here that brings a perspective to what we do from here. Sally, a little bit about your board.
Thank you, Craig. And yes, again, always lovely to see these names and super grateful to my board. We have tremendous, again, geographical diversity. Rod based in San Diego, California, Sharon in Melbourne, Zaira in Rome, Italy. We have Alan in Houston. We have Christy up in Detroit. We have Dr. Karana in Birmingham in the UK. So a tremendous, again, diversity, representative of buy-side, sell-side, actually also academia. Dr. Karana is a professor at Aston University in the UK. So tremendously excited to have this board's support as ever.
Thank you, Sally. So we're looking through chat right now. If anyone has any questions, please raise them now. You can also raise them through the Q&A box on the screen. One of the things that I would like to elevate here is the terminology conversation. So as we look through or getting ready to do the job task, and we just had a meeting today with one of our regions, the APAC is up and running, EMEA is running, America is running. One of the conversations that is coming up is how are we going to manage terminology? Because we look at job tasks, there might be a few things missing. We look at life cycle, it's pretty close. It's the terminology that I believe is going to be our biggest lift. So that's one area that we are going to definitely be focused on our working groups and as well our standard consensus body to come up with an agreement of the terms we are going to use and then how we define them. Because as I mentioned before, this is a journey. The standard will continue to update as more folks adopt it, as more organizations adopt it as the basis of their hiring and training frameworks. We will start to harmonize on the terminology and the language. That's the whole point of this, is so that we do have a common language for practice globally. So Sally, I see you're answering one of the questions about how we will be getting folks involved. Yes, we will be sending out an email. You will see it coming through World CC, through NCMA, possibly through NIGP. You'll also see it come out in LinkedIn and other social media platforms. We need the whole world to respond. I've set a rather aggressive goal for myself that keeps getting, and for us as a group, that we would like 18,000 responses. If we're going out globally, we should be able to get it. But every time I'm together with others, Sharon County, I'm not looking at you, but I'm looking at you. We're saying, why stop at 18,000? We should have more. But Albert, that is exactly where we would need your support, is to be able to respond to those. Look for the email announcements, look for the postings on LinkedIn, And please be sure to share that with folks you know. We need their responses on first the job task analysis, and then certainly with the final document as we put it out for public comment. Sally, were there any other questions that you saw? Oh.
So
I'm laughing at you, Rod. I don't know. We will find out. And actually, the word that we use in the U.S. rather than tendered is tender is a solicitation, and in some parts of the world, that's
it's not a great word in other parts of the world. Craig.
It isn't. So we will have some work to do here to harmonize and agree that. Any other questions that you saw, Sally, that to jump in
well,
on?
so Craig, I think there's a question from Sherry. Will the two organizations merge into one in the future? Sherry, there's no plans at this stage for any merger of the two organizations. We represent quite different communities, and that's one of the reasons why this joint venture coming together has been so seamless and so obvious, actually, as well. But my hashtag, and I put it up at the very beginning, is stronger together. I believe that wholeheartedly, and I believe that we need to continue to represent our own membership communities separately as well.
And if I could address a couple here that are technical, Sean asked, are ANSI and ISO certifications combined or separate? They are technically separate, but we need to do it in harmony. We have to start with the ANSI, so that's why we're doing the reaffirmation. We must have a recently reaffirmed standard, and we must have a recently reaccredited ASD status in order to move to ISO. So they will look at that. So it needs to be within a couple of years, and there is a 5-year timeline where we need to get everything done. So they are combined, but the two organizations are separate. But once we get the standard reaffirmed through ANSI, then it will be submitted to ISO, and it goes through their process where it's actually reinterpreted into over 70 languages. And other people will look at our standard, and they will offer comments on it. And then it'll be up to us to respond to those comments to their satisfaction. So
hey,
yeah,
John,
yes.
John, there was a question on the timeline for the job task analysis again. Could you just reiterate what that timeline looks like?
Yeah, and that was part of the discussion that Craig mentioned that we had this morning. So we're looking at probably by the end of October. So think Halloween for the JTA to be issued, and it must be out for at least 30 days. So there's going to be massive communications from both NCMA and World CC to let you know that it's out there. And so we're not going to let you forget. So yeah, look for that probably toward the end of October, and it will be available through probably the end of November.
And a bigger picture on the entire community conversation of timeline. So our goal is to get to the reaffirmed standard, what we're calling CMS4 in early 2025. We hope that because we're being so global and intentional about the communities that we're representing and how far we're reaching to get feedback in both the job task studies as well as the open comment periods, that we should be able to get through ANSI or ISO's process pretty quickly. However, it could take up to 6 months or longer. We hope not, but we've seen them happen earlier as well. So we had a few other questions come in. Rob, yes, it could be 1 or 2 words. It could be 3. It's going to be up to the standard consensus body. They act semi-autonomously, but very specifically, they are going to be the ones to decide if we pick a singular word, they will be defining it with the regional flavors or regional differences. Dan, nice to see you. Welcome. A program management plan. So if you're talking about how are we going to engage the program management community, yes, we are still talking to PMI, and we'll be working on this journey to enjoy some form of conversation and partnership with them, as they are also ISO. We do have a project plan otherwise making that go through. We do not want to go and reinvent the program management side of the world. And as you all know, if you've seen the PMP, which is the Program Management Institute's certification and their bodies of knowledge and their standard, is that they do try to define contract management in a very, very small way. Our effort and goal is that by our definition being stood up as a global standard, that they will, of course, harmonize to our conversation of that, just as we would do the same if we were mentioning program management. The GCC, Sally, do you know who that is? I'm looking at Rashid's question.
Yes, the Middle East, Craig,
Okay.
and absolutely, Rashid, thank you for raising this. Of course, this is part of the process that we are seeking input from everybody. It's been raised a couple of times that the environment is very different, and that is what this process is designed to uncover. And we will be working with you and seeking your input in terms of ensuring that the standard is understood, accessible, supported in your region.
And thank you, Ramala, for your question. To reinforce what Sally mentioned there, yes, when we think of contract management, and see, this is our effort here. When you say contract management in some parts of the world, you may think of it completely different. You may think of it as only one component of the entire life cycle. We see it as the entire life cycle. So that is part of our journey in ensuring that we define that out and establish the standard throughout. The pre-award environment with SIPs. Thank you, Barry. I appreciate that. Now when I see it spelled out, I see that. Well, thank you, Ramala, on the view on SIPs. We certainly want to maintain a good relationship with SIPs. As you may know, that their work that they've done is not in a defined standard, again, through a global standard setting body. You will see that some of the things that have been defined and some of the things that NCMA is defined, and certainly in the content that World CC does, but others, NIGP, on and on, the definition of pre-award is pretty well covered, not harmonized around single words or a unique list of job tasks. Sally, anything else to add, or Barry? Oh, there we are. Thank you for jumping in there. Okay, so we have a few minutes left here. Are there any other questions? Interesting. Well, Rob, we may reach out to you. Sally, I don't know if you saw Rob's question here. I think we've talked a little bit about some components of this. We've also talked a little bit about relationship management and how that looks.
Yeah, Rob, thank you. It's a great question. And I think these are going to be incredibly valuable conversations that happen amongst the working groups. I think that as you look at the standard and as you discuss what you believe needs to be incorporated, these are really important conversations to be had.
Well, wonderful. I think at this point, I am going to extend my thanks to you all for being part of this journey. Thank you for joining this conversation and learning a little bit more. We are here. Both Sally and I, of course, are accessible. You can find us on our websites. If you have questions, if you would like to get involved, if you just would like to share what you believe, we are happy to listen, because for this to become a globally accessible standard, we need to listen to a lot of people. So Sally, would you like to say a few words of thanks?
Yeah, just it's lovely to see all of the reactions coming up on my screen in front of me. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us today, for participating in what is really a very historic call. And thank you again to the working groups who I know are going to be working tirelessly over the coming weeks and months, and to you, the SCB, for your championship of this whole process as well. So this is the beginning of a very exciting journey, and I'm really looking forward to working with you all. And as Craig said, we're here. Please do ask questions, get involved. That's what this is all about. Thank you.
Thank you all very well. Look forward to your responses to the job task analysis study that will be out probably toward the end of October. Be well, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.